Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I've been thinking of each of you this week, this long week. And I imagine that many of you were glued to the news this past Shabbat as we learned of the horrifying hostage situation at Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville, Texas. And by now, we all know the story. Last Shabbat morning, a man who said he was homeless was admitted to the synagogue, offered tea and hospitality, and then in turn held the Shabbat worshipers and their rabbi at gunpoint while members of the congregation watched on their live stream. 4 people, including Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker, were kept as hostages for many hours. The hostage situation ended when Rabbi Charlie, remembering his security training, saw an opportunity for them to escape and they ran for safety. Rabbi Charlie has been praised for his ability to stay calm and to keep everyone else calm, all while forming a working relationship with the gunman. Rabbi Charlie was a hero, as were Rabbi Charlie's congregants. Thank God. Thank God that this incident ended without any of the hostages being hurt. This was a very different ending than has occurred in situations when a man with a gun has violated a synagogue. And thank God it wasn't us. To live as an aware Jew in America is to be cognizant of the rising level of anti-Semitism and the rising number of attacks on our synagogues and Jewish communal institutions. Every time we see an incident of anti-Semitic violence in the news, we know, we feel it in our kishkas that we are at risk. This is true. But please allow me to put this risk into context. Each of us engages in much riskier activities, riding in a car, for example, than being a victim of synagogue violence. And in response to the risk of automotive travel, our cars are required to have safety belts, airbags, and backup cameras. I recently ended up with a different vehicle, a newer vehicle, and the safety things in that vehicle are astonishing, sometimes a little annoying, but we respond to risk by taking measures, advancing measures as we learn more, as our technology advances to help mitigate these risks and keep us as safe as possible. That is for cars. Okay, what about synagogues? What about this synagogue? In recent years, staff and the security committee have conducted a detailed evaluation of this building's specific security needs and has implemented many measures to keep us safe when we are here. Some of the measures are visible, such as the police officer who stood at the building and said good morning to us as we walked in. That police officer who is standing outside right now in 21-degree weather. That's one example. Other visible examples are the new security doors down the hall that you passed on the way here that we can close to isolate the school wing or this chapel from the rest of the building. Other measures that are in place are not visible, and they need to stay that way in order for them to be effective. And this week, temple leadership and staff are already working to apply what has been learned from this past Shabbat in Colleyville to update our security plans. There have been numerous meetings and resources provided by the URJ and the entire Jewish communal system. Our already robust security plan will be updated to reflect the latest best practices. And again, some of these changes will be visible and others will not. We can and we must take every reasonable measure to protect our physical safety. Full stop. We must do this. But we must be thoughtful as we do so. Juliette Kayyem, a former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under President Barack Obama, wrote this week in the Washington Post, "A synagogue is not like an airport or a stadium. When it becomes a fortress, something immeasurable is lost." These words have been on my heart this week as I tried to make sense of the senseless events in Colleyville. And I would like this morning to share two ideas with you. The first, if fear rules, we will never know what we are missing. Amanda Gorman, who read her powerful poem at the inauguration of President Biden and took our breath away, told a surprising story this week in the New York Times. In her words, it's told like this: Amanda Gorman performed at the inauguration and the rest is history. The truth is, I almost declined to be the inaugural poet. Why? I was terrified. I was scared of failing my people, of my poetry, but I was also terrified on a physical level. COVID was still raging, and my age group couldn't get vaccinated yet. Just a few weeks before, domestic terrorists assaulted the US Capitol on the very steps where I would recite. I didn't know then I'd become famous, but I did know at the inauguration that I was going to be highly visible, which is a very dangerous thing to be in America, especially if you're Black and outspoken and have no Secret Service. She continues, I am a firm believer that often terror is trying to tell us of a force that is far greater than despair. In this way, I look at fear not as cowardice, but as a call forward, a summons to fight for what we hold dear. And now more than ever, we have every right to be affected, afflicted, affronted. If you're alive, you're afraid. And if you're not afraid, then you're not paying attention. The only thing we have to fear is having no fear itself, having no feeling on behalf of whom and what we lost, whom and what we love. On the morning of Inauguration Day, she continues, I went through the motions of getting ready on autopilot, mindless and mechanical. On the way to the Capitol building, I recited the mantra I say before any performance. She said, I am the daughter of Black writers. We're descended from freedom fighters who broke their chains and they changed the world. They call me. Even as we've grieved, we've grown, even fatigued, we found that this hill we climb is one we must mount together. We are battered, but bolder, worn, but wiser. I'm not telling you not to be tired or afraid. If anything, the very fact that we're weary means we are by definition changed. We are brave enough to listen to and learn from our fear. This time will be different because we'll be different. We already are. The truth is, hope isn't a promise we give. It is a promise we live. Tell it like this, and we, like our words, will not rest. If Amanda Gorman had let fear rule her rather than drive her forward, we would not have heard her important voice on that important day for our democracy, on the day when our nation rejected armed insurgent and embraced our democratic ideals. We would be so much poorer without her poetry. And it almost didn't happen. The second idea that I'd like to share is this. We have a choice to let fear rule or to love the stranger as ourselves. A smidgen of Torah. As he was recovering from his circumcision, Abraham rushed from his tent to greet the travelers, and he called out to Sarah to make cakes from the good flour. This scene from Genesis is the origin of the mitzvah of Haknasat Orchim, offering hospitality. And it is from this essential Jewish value that Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker taught the world in an interview this week on NPR. Rabbi Charlie said, when someone comes to the door, they're nervous, they're questioning. They're asking, am I going to be accepted? Whether there's somebody who's Jewish, who's coming in from another community or from our community, or whether they're not Jewish, and maybe they're exploring Judaism for the first time, or they just want to see what a Jewish service is all about because they're curious. And they're asking, am I going to belong? I want them to know that they are going to belong. We can't forget who we are. Hospitality means the world. May we wisely assess the risks we face as a community and take action to protect ourselves from harm. May we be careful. May we be vigilant. May we be welcoming. May we be loving. May we always hold on to the essence of who we are, this congregation of unity and peace, these children of Jacob. And together, let us say,
Amen.
Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
That was lovely, Rabbi.